Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Richie Jones. Richie has experienced both client-side and agency life across multiple sectors, having spent the majority of his career to date being just in front of the curve. He is now in the sweet spot, having found his niche. Launching vvast has allowed Ritchie to blend his agency experience and brand expertise to deliver an innovative, low-capital entry to market for brands, but crucially plugging them into a relentless R&D roadmap to accelerate revenue. He is passionate about the concept of creative destruction and feels genuinely privileged to have seen the inception and gradual impact of the internet on society and brands. Ritchie builds teams with a shared love of brand, a stoke for surfing, mountain biking, and music, and drive to deliver epic work. Having embarked on our B Corp journey in 2021, Ritchie has discovered how aligned it is with his purpose for vvast. It is so much more than environmental impact. It's about considering our contribution to the wider community and understanding the way we do business through an ethical lens. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Ritchie. Welcome, Ritchie.
Well, thanks very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, Ritchie, I know we read your bio, your formal bio that they sent over to us, but we always like to ask our guests to share in their own words a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the bio really sort of summarizes the journey I've been on. And I think the concept of being in front of the curve for quite a long time in my career has definitely been something I've, I guess I paid for in the early parts of my career because I was almost too early with the internet and technology. So what's amazing now, having first founded a company that was about 20 years ago, I sold it about 10 years in. That was an amazing experience to see what it's like to start something and take it all the way through to selling to a AIM listed marketing group. So it's what you do when you've sort of found things, and so it turns into is really exciting. After that, I went brand side, as we call it, for a 5-year period where I was on a private equity and also venture capitalist funded board where we accelerated brands and kind of took them to the whole next level, really. After that, I went what we call brand side and worked and got a big learning for how brands operate, some of the challenges they face. And the crucial thing I kind of learned along that sort of period as well is how to create amazing brand and consumer experiences, what actually really makes consumers want to buy again from a brand and why they enjoy doing it. And then most recently, I founded vvast 6 years ago, and we've now grown to a good sort of 35 people, but approaching 15 million pounds worth of revenue for our brands at the moment. So it's been a really great journey, and crucially within that we have a whole customer services or customer-centric element to what we do as well. And that's what I've done in a nutshell so far.
Wonderful. So could you share with our listeners a little bit about vvast? Like, what kind of clients do you have? What kind of work do you do? So they have a better idea of what your organization is about. I know you mentioned just now that it was formed 6 years ago, and it's about 35 employees that you have in your complement, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So I mean, so what we do in a sort of summary is we've created an approach to be able to bring brands to market, initially in the European marketplace, but we're expanding into the Middle East. We actually have some brands in Australia and New Zealand as well, and fairly soon we're going to be going into the US as well. So it will be a global thing that we're doing. But in the early stages, what we're doing now is we've set up the business so that a brand, some of the brands we work with are brands like Yeti, and we have Stance. We have some of the Troy Lee brands, so Troy Lee as well, Troy Lee Designs, and brands like Jansport, which is one of the VF brands we work with. And all of these brands, we operate in the European market primarily. We set them up. So this is crucially on the e-commerce channel, but also on Amazon as well. It's actually a very complicated channel to navigate. And if you're, saying, based in the US, and we work with a lot of California, West Coast based brands, it's actually can be quite risky setting up an entity and trading in the European market in the first place. And we have all of the teams, the infrastructure, and crucially the technical platforms to be able to launch a brand in Europe, navigate all of the challenges around the 28 countries that exist in the main sort of European Union trading bloc. Things like language, how to price correctly, how to go to market, and also creating amazing customer and brand experiences. So we're able to do that, and it's actually very low cost for a brand to use us compared to them setting up the sort of $1 to $2 million US cost of setting up your own local team and market. So instead, they can talk to us, and we basically act as the brand. We don't see ourselves necessarily as an agency. We see ourselves as a genuine extension to what the brand does, and our sort of customer facing side of what we do, especially they're trained by the brands that we work with as well. So if you were to contact one of the brands we work with, you might talk to someone who works at Vast, but actually in effect, the consumer or customer is none the wiser. They're being dealt with as though they are the brand. And we take great pride in that, and we feel like we're huge sort of custodians of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year we're going for our B Corp as well, as you mentioned in my bio, and we're particularly excited about that because we're able to apply a lot of the learnings from our B Corp to the brands and make recommendations on how they can be more sustainable and more ethical.
Amazing. So I loved what you said about talking to someone from Vast, but you didn't know you were talking to someone from Vast because it was almost like you're talking to someone from the actual company because that experience was just so seamless. So I'm sure many of our listeners may have different organizations that they are a part of and they may outsource some aspects of their business. And so when you outsource a lot of times, the customer may not necessarily have the same experience across the board. Could you share with us maybe 2 or 3 things that you found has made your team successful to make that experience so invaluable for the customer that they're not even able to pick up that you are a third party, but you're just all one?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that is really crucial with the kind of brands we work with as well. So they're a lot of them are high end. So the expectation from a consumer point of view is that it should be like a premium, incredible experience. So I think the real challenge of it is that if there's common issues that are coming up, is having good software to track. So we use Zendesk as our main platform, but there's others out there, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But having really good software to track what are the consistent problems that the consumers are contacting us about. So, and that's where, because we own the full 360 user experience, we call it 360, which is so we can actually change if it's a problem with how we're describing the sizing, for example, on the website.
Mm-hmm.
Might be one specific product. And that's particularly important when you're importing products from, say, the US, where sizing is completely different, and they use imperial, not metric. So making sure all those things you address. So if it's a really common issue and it's reoccurring, making sure you have a really clear process that addresses that, so you can actually reduce the amount of inbound you're getting around that particular issue. That's a real kind of big advantage that we have because we've got that visibility.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely the first thing I'd say. I think as well, the other one as well is really immersing our brand team, our sort of customer experience facing team in the brand itself. And we're, again, with the premium brands that we're working with, we're very fortunate that they actually extend their training, their onboarding, and also product update training with our own team. And that's been really instrumental in terms of our success. So often the US teams will just treat our team exactly as an extension, which is exactly what you need. And likewise, they will share their excitement. So if there's a product update, for example, that addresses one of the key issues, because a lot of these products, they're driven by the consumer. So if there's a key issue that comes up, like the latch is too tight or too hard to close on a key kind of piece of luggage, for example,
Mm-hmm.
when there's an update and there's a really great accessory that comes out that addresses that issue, our team are the first to know from those brands that there's a brilliant kind of solution to this. And that is just a great example that the brand is listening to the consumer, which is, again, why a consumer will repeat with that brand. And I think the third one I'd say is that glue that exists between the trading team that we have, who actually trade the e-commerce websites, and also things like Amazon, and the insights that the team are kind of getting. So there's a great trust there. So if there's an issue with the website, which I'm happy to say doesn't happen very often, our trade team will be the first to tell our customer experience team that there's an issue. And it might be on one particular payment type, for example, like Apple Pay's gone down, or MasterCard isn't working in Germany for some reason, or whatever it is. Our trade team are very quick to tell the customer experience team to say, really quickly, okay, we're aware of this issue, we're working on it, here's a resolution, can we help you with an alternative payment method, that kind of thing, really. So those are probably the kind of biggest things, and it really leverages our 360 model because we've got that visibility across the entire business, so to speak.
Amazing. So you mentioned the glue, the technology, and the training and development, and that's kind of how
Yes.
your methodology works in order to ensure that seamless experience. That's really really good. Thank you for sharing that, Richie. Now, could you also share in working with with your company Vast and all of your high end clients and brands across different countries across Europe, what are maybe I would say two things, let's narrow it down to two, that you believe is important to grow a profitable and purpose led business focused on transparency and communicating values? Because especially the values part, because you're working with
Yeah.
many different people, many different personalities. We were all socialized and grown up differently. So how do you kind of get everybody on that same page, and then your consumer buys into that, those values that you have for your organization, and they can see those values permeate in their day-to-day interactions with you?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a kind of question of now, and as in it's a very pertinent to the the zeitgeist of purpose led, really. And I think we're in this age now, especially the internet and post COVID, where the brands, the biggest brands in the world, and even the smaller ones, and operations like what Vast do as well. If you're going to embark on a purpose-led mission and use things like the amazing movement that is B Corp to make it a transparent process, you absolutely 100% have to live and breathe your kind of company vision. Fundamentally, that's the most important thing. And I think um, anchoring it back to your company vision and reminding your team of what you're doing and why you're doing it not only creates a feeling of belonging and excitement in that you're on this bigger mission that isn't just about making profit, it's actually about what excites our team so much, and me especially, that really makes me happy, about that it's not just a making money thing, is that you can really feel like we're on a mission that is going to potentially not just influence the brands we work with, but ideally also influence the everybody else, our peers in the industry. And our peers could be either competitors to what Vast does, and there's not many at the moment, or the actual competitors of some of our brands that go, okay, well, that's a really good idea. That, for example, we deploy a type of a version of Shopify that's much more low energy for the end user and also for the hosting environment that we use. So, we're willing to share how we've actually achieved that in the same way that Volvo did when they designed the seatbelt. They made the patent open source that meant the whole car industry could then adopt that and save millions of lives. So we feel like we're in this place where we can create just a great passion for what we do, in terms of like, we can address the climate emergency. We can start to, or at least be part of that solution to the climate emergency. We can start to say to people that we've got a way of engaging ethically in e-commerce selling techniques, that and all those things drive back to this kind of common purpose that exists in the business itself. And it's phenomenal how the B Corp kind of framework gives you this. Well, it does literally a framework to actually implement some of the findings and learnings to actually get to turn your company mission statement into a set of values that then your team will do and live day in day out, and you can attach those to the team objectives. So if someone has a team objective for that particular quarter, for example, or an individual has an objective, you can say, what company value are you actually going to attach that to? And you can benchmark it. And we actually have an award that we give out once a month. It's called the Vastify Award.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite bizarre, and it's shaped. You mentioned surfing earlier. I'm not sure if you're familiar what a shako is, which is you stick your two fingers up on each end of your palm, one your thumb out, and then your finger out the other way, and you sort of do a shaka, which is a surfing thing. But we bought that
Oh,
as a cute.
I've never surfed before, but I'm a good swimmer.
There you go. So look at what Shaka is at the end of this bit. It's basically a golden Shaka that we give to people each month who have demonstrated the best. They've exemplified our values in the best way. And an example of one of our values is for planet and community. And it's like demonstrating how we've managed to lower our impact to improve our impact on obviously on the planet, but also on our community as
Mhm.
well. And those are great ways. And we give away a month's worth of charity days in terms of our team. So each team member can spend a day a year, and maybe two if it's a good great sort of if the workload are allowed, working at a charity that they believe in or an NGO. And that's another example where we're just living that example by our kind of company mission, really. And it's all been made possible really by that whole B Corp sort of framework that we can then report against. Really, those are probably the biggest ways that we demonstrate that purpose. Really,
Amazing. All right. Thank you for sharing so much of that information, Richie. I'm sure it'll be of great value to our listeners. Now, can you share with
no
us what's
problem.
can you share with us what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely cannot live without in your business?
Wow, that's a great question. So I think where we're at now, and this I promise you, this is not an advert. I think the bit, the tool that is a kind of our playbook where we store all of our insights and our processes in terms of a new product launch or a new starter joins or someone leaves or whatever it is a platform called Asana. And we've gone through two or three tools that are very similar to Asana, but we're now using it to a point now where we literally can just fire up all kinds of processes and tasks. Simple things like if there was a data, I'm just thinking now in terms of the more customer centric stuff. If there was someone did a data request, okay, I want you to delete all my data that this brand has on me. Can you confirm you'll do that within in 48 hours, which is what the legislation says we need to do. So we have a process. We just fire up in Asana and bosh, it's done. The team are pulled in the right sort of way. I think that has been a game changer for us, and it exists across in the web browser and also in app on desktop as well. So I think that's probably the one I would choose out of all of them.
All right, so Asana. So we'll have that link to that application in the show notes of this episode for those of our listeners that would like to tap into that awesome resource. Could you also share with us, Richie, maybe one or two books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could be a book that you read recently or even one that you read a very long time ago, but it has had a very big impact on you.
Yes, no problem. So I mean, wow, okay, cool. So the classic one at the moment I'm referencing quite a lot at the moment is the Power of Why, which is a Simon Sinek book, which is it was probably his first kind of big mass market success, I'd say. And that talks about going right back to what is your purpose? Why does your company even exist?
Mm-hmm.
What gets you out of bed? And it literally will pull you right back out of all of the kind of minutiae to go on that journey about why literally why is so important. And is definitely worth a follow on LinkedIn if you can. Simon Sinek, he's really great, and he is now really sort of taking things. His success through COVID was phenomenal. He's taking it to the whole next level with what you can do. But that's a great book to start with. I think another one is one called Shoe Dog, which is the story, autobiography actually, written by the founder of Nike, and
Mm-hmm.
it tells you it's such an amazing movie. I mean, just on a personal level, but also, uh, yeah, we all know about the kind of sacrifices you have to make when you start a business, and I think he encapsulates that whole summary. And so also I should say is also the founder of Nike as well, which is Phil Knight. And in that book, it takes you on such a journey about him going from bedroom startup, literally from his his classically educated academic dad questioning why on earth he wants to set up a trainer brand in the first place, all the way through to at the end where the business is obviously worth billions, the most successful kind of shoe and apparel business on the planet, so to speak, really. And I think it's a fascinating read, and it's actually very inspiring. I relate to it because of the how he's engaging community in such a clever way, especially through active sports. and they obviously started it in running, but diversified into obviously all kinds of areas like basketball, as we all know. So I think that's a really inspiring read. I recommend that to anyone, even if they're not in the kind of lifestyle fashion business. It's a great read.
All right. So we will have both those books in the show notes of this episode for our listeners to tap into. Now, Richie, could you also share with us one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
Oh wow, that's awesome. So right, okay, so we're like 6 years old, and that feels like we're older, but feels like at the moment we're going through the stage where we're really going up from being like disruptive teenagers who are probably coming home late at night and their parents are worried about them type thing to actually going into this amazing stage where we're really accountable, and we've always been accountable at this next level of accountability where we're doubling down on our processes, how teams are iterating things. And we've been on this amazing journey with an external company. I'm going to name drop them, which they're based in Bristol, a company called Lunos. And good friend of mine who runs it as well, two friends of mine who run it. And these guys have done an amazing job in terms of coming in and evaluating where we're at as a business, and then providing us crucially with these really simple tools to help us transition into this grown up versions of ourselves. And it's the process is called Launchpad, and it's been amazing. It's grueling as well, I'll be honest, in terms of you've got to carry on running the company at the same time. You've got to keep all your people on the same page that this journey is worth it. But I can really see already from the green shoots I've seen already that this process is going to be transformative in terms of how we get on the amazing work we do for our brands that I internally call this the gold that we're creating out into the ether to demonstrate all of the value to our brands, because we don't talk about it enough. We see so many things, but the passion doesn't always come out sometimes, and that's just purely a product of people just delivering the day to day and not taking that time, like Simon says, to ask what the why is and go, oh, by the way, we've seen this. Look at this solution we've got. Would you be interested in doing it with us? So that probably is the single biggest piece, and I can't wait to continue on the journey to keep on delivering against that.
Amazing. All right. So, our listeners would have tapped into this fantastic episode, Richie, and they're saying to themselves, I would like to connect with Richie and I would like to connect with Vast. Where can they find you online?
We are on the online. So we're www.vast, which is spelled double V, so vvast.net. So that's where we are online. If you want to contact me as well, it's very easy. If you just do a search, Richie Jones Vast on LinkedIn or Google, I'll pop up. Just watch Google, not the fourth result, because that's a country and western singer, and you might get a different answer.
Okay, perfect. All right. Now, before we wrap our episodes up, we always like to ask our guests if you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote. If for any reason you feel off track or you get derailed, this quote kind of helps to get you back on track. Remind you of, as you said, that Simon Sinek says, why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, it's so funny. So, I mean, I think it's probably a quote I just tell myself. So when adversity truly strikes, and sometimes it'll be on top of something that's even more, you've been dealing with just with the business, you might be in peak trading or whatever the challenges are. I just tell myself that this is what you do. Like this is what you can do. This, like, you can face this adversity, and then it's the kind of thing that the saying that comes in my head sometimes is kind of this is what you're here to do, and you can do this. And you demonstrated this to yourself multiple times that you can just navigate. So if you have to stay up until 3 a.m. one day and just navigate something because the US have asked you to do something you need to do last minute, you can do it. And I think it's that reminder that we've got the ability to just push on through to that next level, way beyond what you think you can do, like mentally and also physically. I think I learned that from my sports, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that thing that it's what you were meant to do, and if it's meant to happen, you will be able to do it. That's the kind of thing I tell myself, and at the moment, I seem to be proving to myself that I can do that, which is a cool feeling.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Richie, for taking time out of your very busy schedule to hop on
No problem.
our podcast. And I mean, you shared so many things that I've learned from, and I'm sure our listeners will get great value from. It was a really fun conversation. You're super easy to talk to. And I just really appreciate you taking time to have this conversation with us today. And we wish you all the very best in your future endeavors for you, your team members, and your clients that you serve.
Thanks so much. It's been really wonderful to meet you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, and for everybody listening out there, thank you very much.
All right. Just want to remind our listeners that you can follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook group is Navigating the Customer Experience Community. And feel free to follow us on Twitter. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience webinar. Our annual webinar will be hosted on Wednesday, July 26, 2023 at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please feel free to come and join us. It will be on the Zoom platform. We look forward to seeing you there. You can also visit our website. The link to join our webinar can be accessed on the show notes of this episode. It's going to be fantastic.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.